So, what's the symbology there?
Symbology? Now that Duffy has relinquished his king bonehead crown, I see we have an heir to the throne. I'm sure the word you were looking for was symbolism. What is the symbolism there? Let me explain it to you.
But as far as your experience, you worked on a lot of cases and your colleagues have a lot of experience. Is there Odinist cult out there, or any cults that go around murdering people like this?
Not in my experience, and not in anything that I've seen prior to my, we just haven't seen it. And when we talk about, kind of satanic rituals or ritualistic murders or sacrifices, what we're talking about is the primary motivation is to fulfill a prescribed ritual calling for killing. That's what we're talking about when we're talking, and we don't see those cases. We have not seen those cases. Not the colleagues that I worked with, not my predecessors. Now, since I've experienced, and of course, I had all these questions of, well, what more did they say? It's interesting to me from a behavioral perspective, and having done this work, how they would come to that conclusion. But then, then I kind of had to decompress and say, okay, they're not saying this was a ritualistic killing. They're saying that this person had Nordic beliefs. There's a difference. And, because one of the things that we really don't see, as we talked about earlier, is that we just don't really see it, killings motivated strictly by like a religious ritual or sacrifice. There's always some other motivation, primary motivation. And of the fact that we confess our sins and things like that. Like this person knows that based on what they left at the scene, like a note or something like that. And so they have knowledge of it. Does that mean they practice it? Does that mean not necessarily? So these are things you have to really be careful in your words. And the way it was written is that this, in the defense motion, was that the offender had Nordic beliefs. So it's not worded that this was a ritualistic killing or anything like that. It's just that they had these beliefs. Now, how do we know that they have them, or how do we know that they just have knowledge of them? That I think would be difficult to interpret. But perhaps, they saw something that, we don't have access to that made them think. And then again, when it comes to profiling, that it could very well be that an investigator just called somebody in the BAU, and this happened all the time, sort of these informal conversations where, hey, I'm seeing this, this, and this. And the profiler will say, yeah, that sounds like it could be, but I would need more information. And an investigator, takes that as, okay, this is what the BAU thinks. And
yeah, just the first part of the sentence. Yeah, that sounds like Odinist.
Well, I mean, we would get calls all the time. So people will just call in, and then, whoever's available takes a phone call from an investigator or a detective or a prosecutor. And like, for example, we have this, we have 2 murders here, and we're seeing this behavior at both these murders. Are these linked? And you say, yeah, they could be linked. And then somebody might run off and say, the FBI said they're linked. And we really haven't looked at, we're just saying, well, it sounds like it could be. I mean, there's nothing that you would say not at all. So I don't know if this is what happened here, or if the FBI did an official, or the FBI's BAU did an official profile. And if they did, that would be, that would be in writing. It would contain all of the information concerning the crime and the summary of the crime. It would contain autopsy results and the summary of what those were. It would contain a detailed write-up on victimology. And then it would give their assessment and the basis for their assessment, specifically, why they make those determinations. That is typical. Now, if it's just a phone call that somebody's called in, I mean, it's kind of routine and standard operating procedure and practice. If FBI agents take a phone call, they document it. They document it either in a